Welcome to 3.3. We're going to be talking more about operators in this specific lesson. Operators are the kind of, in a basic sense, some of the math equations that are possible, along with a few other kind of little quirks that just don't really fall into any other category, so we put them under the operators. So we have different shaped of operators. We have the oval-shaped operators. Those could be inserted in anything that has a white circle in Scratch blocks. They can actually even be set inside of themselves, which is kind of cool. We have these kind of six-sided operators, if you will. These are conditional operators. So they have specific conditions that have to be that they're testing for. And again, these can be put inside of each other, so you can kind of layer them. And they return a Boolean value of true or false. So feel free to kind of look around on some of these. The first couple ones, they're pretty self-explanatory. We got addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Pick random we've used before. It comes back with a random number, and it includes the numbers that are on both sides. And that's actually kind of an important idea whenever we start getting into later programming. Is it inclusive or not? Some aren't inclusive, and some are inclusive. The six ones, like we said, the six-sided ones, like I said, are Boolean tests. These have true, false. You can create combos. To have a less than or equal to, you actually have to do like this weird like kind of combination of is it less than or is it equal to, which when you say it less than or equal to, it actually kind of makes sense, but building it, you're kind of like that's a little just a little ungainly and awkward. And as an operator, both things have to be true. Or as an operator, either one has to be true. Not as an operator, that means that it's not true. Like it gives a true value if the thing on the inside is not true, which is kind of weird sometimes to think about. Join, we used this in the last lesson. It combines two strings together. We need to provide our own spacing on this. In other languages, there are certain characters that provide spacings or don't. We don't always want there to be a space in between different things, so that's why it's not inherently available. Letter returns the selected letter of a string. A string is a series of characters. They could be numbers, but whenever we're kind of talking about this, we're talking about the specific string that is going to be more than likely letters or symbols. Length of returns the number of characters in a string. How long of a word is apple? And then we have another Boolean true false that says apple contains a, so does it have a specific character or set of characters in it? The next couple ones are a little bit different. Mod stands for modulus. This returns the remainder of the first number divided by the second number. You can think of this as your old school, like back in like 3rd, 4th grade, when you were doing long division and you said, oh, the answer is 3 with the remainder of 4. And what it returns is just the remainder value, so it would return 4. Rounds the number to the closest integer value, integer being that whole number. Then we have a little drop down. In the drop down, we have a whole bunch of different options available here. ABS, that's the absolute value. Floor rounds a number down. Like every single time, no matter what the value is, it could be 2.99999, and is going to round it down to 2. On the flip side of that, we have ceiling, which always rounds a number up. Even if it was 2.00001, it's going to round it up to 3. Square root, or SQRT, takes the square root. Sine, cosine, tan, arc sine, arc cosine, arc tangent. These are all trigonometric functions. For those of you that have taken Algebra 2 or geometry, you know what I'm talking about with that. ln and log, these are logarithmic functions. And e to the power, 10 to the power, these are exponential functions. So in our guessing game, we're going to use this kind of little short equation, and we're going to set guess equal to the low plus the high divided by 2. Now, one thing that we have to pay attention to here is these parentheses. And I guess the first thing I had actually before I went on to that was whenever we do this division, we want to get a whole number. We want to get an integer. Otherwise, our guessing starts going to decimals and we're never going to get the right answer. So we're always going to use that floor code. Now, here's the thing I was going to point out was we have to pay attention to these parentheses because the parentheses play into how this actually works. So we need the low and the high inside of parentheses. And you can imagine that each one of these circles, these operators that we have, is their own set of parentheses. And so we're going to go the low plus the high, then we're going to divide by 2, and then we're going to take the floor of that function. Okay. So just like last time, I'm probably going to go through most of this that you're going to need to do in order to get through this thing. So we're going to add code for sprite 1. It's when it receives is it greater than, it's going to respond with a yes or no. For sprite 2, we're going to make a floor function to guess a number, and then it's going to set a new low whenever we get yes. We're going to set a new high when we get no, and this one you get to do on your own. You get to comment on all your sections of code. You have to pay attention, or at least rewind this and go see what we're doing here. All right. I'm actually... It's nice kind of having sprite 1, but I'm actually kind of going to work a little bit through to sprite 2 as well. I'll kind of bounce back and forth. So sprite 1, we're going to apply the following test. We're going to see if something is, we're going to check the guess, and we're going to use that. And so it says, when I receive is greater, if the secret is greater than the guess, then we're going to say yes and broadcast yes. Else, we're going to say no and broadcast no. I can't remember if we've talked about if then else statements. If then else statements, if this is true, then this happens. Otherwise, this happens. We're used to if statements where it's if this is true, then this happens. Otherwise, just keep going. So this one actually provides a if this is false, we're going to do this. All right. In sprite 2, we're going to, actually a lot of times I like to keep this code in here just so I can kind of see it thinking, especially because right here it has basically the same thing over and over again. So we're going to modify this block of code, and to say whenever I receive make guess, I'm going to set the guess to be the floor of the low plus the high divided by 2. Say, is it greater than the guess? Broadcast is greater. Add a couple new blocks. When I receive yes, set the low to guess plus 1. Say low is low and high is high. When I receive no, set high to guess. Say low is low and high is high. Right here, notice how these are the same thing. This falls under the idea of dry. Do not repeat yourself. Don't repeat yourself. If you find yourself repeating yourself, you're doing something wrong. Potentially. You could be doing something right, but very likely you're doing something wrong. All right, let's go look at Scratch. So this is left over from our last video. So what I'm going to do is right here under make guess, this is for sprite 2, I'm going to go ahead and go set my guess. So I'm going to go to variables, grab set guess to. Now I'm going to go to my operators, drag this out here, change this to 4, put that in. Then I want my division button, make that a 2, then go take my plus sign and make that a low, and make this a high. Now if you click on this, it'll actually do your low is 1, your high is 10, and, oh, oops, I want to do right here. Disconnect this. If you click on this, it'll actually tell you what it is, and I guess I could have looked up here and I would see that they're setting guess to 5 when I did that. Alright. And then, so I set my guess, and now I want to say something. I need to say, and I'm using a variable in here, so I need to go grab a join. Actually, I want to use 2 joins, so I can put a question mark at the end, so I look a little civilized. Is it greater than guess? And put a question mark. Alright, let's just see what this looks like. Your low is 1, your high is 10. Is it greater than 5? Awesome. Well, Scratch didn't say anything. Well, that's because we didn't tell Scratch to say anything yet. Alright, let's go. As well as Scratch doesn't notice anything. One, because we haven't told Scratch, but also, she never actually says anything to Scratch. She just makes something appear on the screen. Scratch does not care. So, I'm going to go over here to Events, grab a broadcast, and not broadcast make guessed, otherwise this would just be an infinite loop. I'm going to make this is greater. Alright. Okay, this looks good. Jump back over to Scratch. When I receive is greater. Awesome. I need that if then else statement, which is under control. If then else. Then operators. And 1 second, just need to check something real quick. Secret greater than guess. I always get those two mixed up. So if our secret is greater than our guess, then we want to say yes. If our secret is not greater than our guess, we want to say no. Use an exclamation mark. Okay. So now our secret number is 2. Guess number between 1 and 10. Your low is 1, your high is 10. Is it greater than 5? He should say no. Awesome. Well, now she doesn't do anything. And that's because we haven't told her to. Now, right in here, oops, we're going to broadcast yes. And then we're going to also broadcast in this one, you guessed it, no. Now I'm going to go back to Sprite 2. When I receive yes, and when I receive no, these are going to do two different things. So when I receive yes, I want to set, so this is saying, is it greater than a number? And it says yes. So that means that the number does not include the value that we had. And so we're raising everything up because it was greater than. So low is going to be our guess plus 1. So we'll grab a plus, put a 1 in there, grab a guess, put it right there. When I receive no, I'm going to set high to be the guess. Now we're not subtracting 1 on here because is it greater than a number doesn't exclude the number. So we need that number to still be an option. Now I was kind of talking about how we're going to just utilize this same bit of code that we already have going. And I could go events, and broadcast, make guess, broadcast, make guess. So now, if we play this, guess a number between 1 and 10. Your low is 1, your high is 10. The number is 6, so is it greater than 5? It should be yes. So this should take the low to be 6. Yep, your low is 6, your high is 10. Is it greater than 8? You should say no. So that should bring our 10 down to 8. Your low is 6, your high is 8. Is it greater than 7? No. So that should take it down to 7. Your low is 6, your high is 7. Is it greater than 7? No. And your low is 6, your high is 6. Is it greater than 6? No. And now we're going to be stuck in this infinite loop. And that's totally fine. That's actually kind of where we're going to leave things off, so that then we're kind of running through this. Some of you may notice there is a way to optimize this a little more. If you want to find that challenge, go ahead and jump through that. So hopefully this was helpful.